making education attractive to students. And so it's, I heard it on a podcast last week, someone said, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink, but you can make them really thirsty. So if I can make what I'm teaching my students like so attractive, or make the idea of becoming more than what they've come from, more like really attractive, like that to me is like, that's the goal. So it's like, how do I put a shine on this so that you want to do it? And yeah, and so and without any resources really, it's like, how do I make something from nothing? How do I like dream on a budget? And so my whole classroom was developed out of that. Like, you know, I don't pay anybody for any trip I ever go on. It's only by the good graces of like the invites that I get, or the kindness of others, that I get cool stuff to benefit my students. And so that's just kind of how we roll, because out of necessity, it's not like I have another alternative. It's like, it's either do that or it's just gonna suck. So when I was allowed to make a class, I thought, what are my students like? Like overall, like to overgeneralize my students, it's because it's all boys school, it's girls, it's hip hop, it's sports, and video games. And so someone else was already teaching a video game class, history of video games. And so I'm not going to teach about girls, and I suck at sports. So I just thought, why don't we just make it about hip hop? And then that made me have to deep dive into like the history of hip hop and the Jamaican sound system, and like how turntables and scratching all started and all that stuff. So it was also a way for me to show my students, like, this is how much I'm invested. Like, I know more about hip hop than anyone in my school. And I tell everyone that. I'm like, I'm not afraid. I'll go toe to toe with anybody, but it's all because of my students, right? And it's because if you really love what you're doing, you really want to get your students engaged, you're willing to go places that you wouldn't normally. And it's ultimately, it's the kind of teacher I wish some teacher had done that when I was younger. So it's like, same way I parent. Like, I do stuff with my kids that I don't always want to do, but I'm like, damn, I wish my dad did some stuff like this. Like, and then you get to be that person. Like, you get to fill that role. If someone had taught a class and based it on Star Wars or Tribe Called Quest, like when I was in high school, I would have been I would have wanted to go to that class every day. But they didn't. It sucked. It was based on stuff the teachers liked, right? So like, and you still see this. Like, I'll see teachers that are like, really love, I don't know, like some band like The National, and they're like trying to teach a lesson through a song by The National. It's like, but if your students don't like The National, if they don't know who that is, they're not interested. So why not take the time and listen to an Uzi or a Drake album, and then find what you're looking for? Like, it's all there, right? It's just like all the language, all the timing, all the, you know, if you look at like any Lupe stuff, like it's super culturally relevant. There's tons of cool stuff you can pull out of that. And then it's about not, you know, because teachers get tripped up. They think that students are going to think they're trying to be cool when you're not. I haven't been cool since 1995. Like, I'm trying to be relevant is what I'm trying to do. And I tell my students that, like, look, when Fortnite season, I guess it was like 8 last year, kind of dropped, I was up early in the morning. I played for 15 minutes before I went to school. I knew what all the new skins were. I knew what all the new guns were. And then when I went in, that was the first conversation we had, and I looped it into my lesson. Yep. And so your school doesn't let you decorate your room so certain schools would be like, you can't do you can't paint a whiteboard on your wall, right? That would be like, you're destroying the school property. And like, come up with a solution for it, right? Like, you can't teach NWA or Lil Uzi. Well, what can you teach through? Like find stuff that students, you can like listen to music on the radio, teach through, I don't know, Gaga or whatever your kids are into. It's about finding the thing to teach through the lens, because there's always going to be a restriction, right? Teachers are a part of a broken system, and they know that going in, but it's not until they actually get in the classroom and like get punched in the face by the system that they're like, you go, oh, well, wait, I'm not allowed to do anything. I'm not allowed to be the teacher that I want to be. Yeah, but so what? Like, your kids are stuck in a system that's broken also. So figure it out. And I think one of the ways that we have now to be able to do that is through social media. We've met with like Emmy award-winning like directors in Brooklyn and all over the place. But it's just by DMing people and saying, hey, would you be willing to do this? And every once in a while, someone awesome goes, yeah, we'd be willing to do that. And you're like, awesome. Then I don't even have to be awesome. I just am standing next to the awesome person. So I just look cooler. Like I get to live off of their awesomeness. It's like, it's funny because most teachers look at social media like, so if we even go just social media for a second, like they are afraid of it. It is something that like you constantly hear stories about how teachers were texting their students and it was inappropriate, or sending DMs that were inappropriate, or whatever. I just refuse to be afraid of it. Like I go on offense instead of defense. And so I am literally using these things as the tools that they were created for. So I think in doing that, it has allowed me, it puts you in a different mindset where you just start thinking creatively, because there's no other alternative. Like my school does not have money for stuff. Like, so if I want things, I have to build them myself, or I ask people online, or I like form relationships. So now having a YouTube channel, like last year I needed stools for my room, right? I have a lot of students that have ADHD. They have a really hard time just sitting in a desk. So I built these plywood boxes in the back of my room, and the students both stand at them, they can sit behind them, or they sit in them, right? So it turns out students like sitting in, like there's a reason little kids make forts, right? It like cuts out all the external stimuli, they feel safe, they feel comfortable. So I have kids like sitting, it looks like I'm shipping students, right? So it's just plywood crates that like kids sit in. But when I found that need was there, I just said on social media, like I was like, hey, if anyone has old stools, I need new stools because my guys break everything. And this woman just reaches out and she's like, I'll buy them for you. Go on Amazon, tell me the ones that you want. I'll buy anything because I love it. Or haircut culture is really important in the neighborhood in which I teach. And when you don't have money, your mom cuts your hair in the kitchen. But then if your mom jacks your hair up, you don't want to come to school for like a week until it grows out a little bit. And so we just started collecting money online. Like I just put it out there. I do a live feed every Sunday night on my YouTube channel to help teachers like with whatever they're dealing with. And I said, hey, if I was to ask for you to donate to haircuts, would people do it? And like that night we raised like $200, right? From the jump. And whenever I ask that, those needs are met by other people. And it's that same thing. It's because people want to help others. So then when you do that stuff, you just start thinking, well, what else is possible? What else could I have for my students? Like when you meet Gary Vaynerchuk, you're like, well, who else could I connect with? And so that really, I think that creativity, that creative mindset really starts building momentum. And then you're like, it just opens you up to new ideas and worlds. And so like, even in my classroom, like my classroom is unlike any other classroom I've ever been in my life. And that I have like this giant 8-foot driftwood tree that I made. I have like blackboard paint all over my walls, where I've like because I hate posters that are in most teachers' rooms where it's like an eagle flying over a mountain, or something about simile and metaphors like on the far wall. It's like, kids shouldn't be reading posters on the wall, man. We're supposed to be paying attention. But we have like flying books in my classroom that I made that are hanging from fishing string that look like they're flying all over the classroom. And just that difference, that shift makes my room have a much different feel to it, from the lighting that I use to the way I display my books on these floating bookshelves I have all over the place. I think that builds momentum. And when people are in your space, they feel more creative. They're willing to do weirder stuff because you are a weird dude already. So I think that momentum builds up, and I think that spurs creativity in everyone that's kind of even in your environment. It helps that. I've gone to see DJs where they've like taught my students like how to scratch vinyl old school. And so even if you hate school, you can't hate that. And so if I can start creating that love and that interest in learning, then students are willing to go with you anywhere. But it's just about figuring out, what are your students like? What are they interested in? And then if they're into YouTube, there's got to be a YouTuber out there that even if you live in North Dakota and no one's coming to North Dakota, you can Skype with them. Like get that person to Skype. So we Skyped last year with the guy that did all of the credits for all the Avengers movies. So like all the cool artwork in there and all the way they lay out all their credits. And I just had a small group of students that were interested in that, and they stayed after school. And for 10 kids, we met with this guy, and it was awesome. I have another person that has a vineyard. They grow wine in New Zealand, and but they're really go-getter like entrepreneurs on social media. They know everyone from Tim Ferriss to Gary Vee. And so if I want to meet Tim Ferriss, like I go to this person first, I meet with him, I kind of get what I can from my students, and then it's the next step to something else also. So it's that simple.